What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Rusty Wrench Restorations. I'm Steve, and it's a beautiful day out today. So I wasn't going to mess with these undercarriages until maybe later in the summer, beginning of fall, because the weather has just been so friggin' hot down here and humid that I didn't even want to deal with it. I get home in the afternoon from work, and the last thing I want to do is come out here and mess with these things. But it's like 80 degrees today. It's like no humidity. It's really nice. So I think I'm going to tear into these while I have the opportunity. Really, the main thing that I want to try to get done today is obviously we're going to pull the idler tension springs out. And then the hardware that bolts these rollers, you'll see it better when I get this flipped upside down. Anyway, the hardware that holds these rollers in is completely like rotted away, and there's no way I'd ever be able to put a wrench in a socket on there and get it apart. So we're just going to cut all those, get everything apart, and kind of assess what I've got going on. I think the rollers are all in pretty good shape, so we should be good there. I'm contemplating cutting and grinding and taking this top plate off and putting a new one on, because it's definitely seen better days, but again, we'll see how that goes. But anyway, we'll work on both these undercarriages today, get them apart, get all the rollers out, inspect, see where we're at, and then and go from there. So probably a pretty short video, but anyway, wanted to get out here and make some progress on it, so well, let's do it. And as always, because of the limited space that I have, I've got to move the 420 so that we can get to the undercarriage parts to get those tore apart. Later today I'm going to do another video on this tractor. That'll be the next video that's posted after this one, so be sure to check that one out too. I finally broke down. I'm going to remove the two front tilt roll cylinders and the hydraulic pump and bring them someplace to get rebuilt. So my two pet peeves for any tractor are oil leaks and tires that go flat. So I hate having oil leaks. It makes a mess. I like to be able to park these out in the driveway or the street sometimes when I'm doing other projects, and I can't because it's constantly leaking oil. So anyway, that's for the next video. Let's get this thing moved so we can tear apart these undercarriages. Interesting. The old battery that wasn't good, obviously, would do this, and it would get on a funny spot on the start, and it would hang up, and I'd have to kind of relieve the pressure with this pump, trying to turn the engine over. Oh, let me get the meter and check my battery. It's been on a tender, so it shouldn't be dead. 420 won't start. I always disconnect the battery when I shut it off, and then I also put my trickle charger on it. So it's odd. Battery's reading 12.72. So no issue with the battery. Yeah, I think this starter, which is that black thing right here, I think it's got a bad spot in it. Every once in a while, it will hang up and not allow me to start the tractor. So I use this this pipe wrench down here, and I can put it on this coupling. So that's the coupling that's connected to the crank of the engine and goes through to the hydraulic pump. And sometimes I can use that to kind of turn the engine over, which will disengage the starter. Sometimes there's like a Bendix in there that comes out. Anyway, I can usually get it to start after that, so I don't know. We'll try that again and see if that does anything. Let's see what we got here. I'll put this camera down so you can see what's going on. Let's try that. Alright, so stick this in in here, try to turn the engine over, but it's not one. Doesn't feel like it's even fucking turning over. Alright. That's definitely not good. I hope this thing didn't lock up. Damn it. I don't want to try to get a better grip on the engine here. Holy crap. That's not good. What is this? This is an Allen plug for, I think it's for that coupling. I just broke it. Son of a bitch. Damn it. Well, that's not good. That's definitely not good. Well, I'm going to leave that part on there. Shoot. Well, hell. So, this coupling that I just broke, you can see it spins now easy because it's just turning the pump. But I think I broke, let's see, reach down in my bucket oil here. This is the bottom part of the coupling. Damn. Well, it's not keyed. That's weird. It's not keyed onto the shaft with this piece. So, shoo. Alright, let me figure out what's going on here, and I don't know as though I'm even going to be able to get this loader part moved. We might be just doing the pump today. Anyway, alright, let me figure out what's going on. Surprise! Alright, well, the content of this video just changed dramatically. Welcome to tractors as your hobby. So, alright, so here's the deal. I don't think there's an issue with my battery, even though it was just clicking when I went to start it. I think the starter that I have, as I mentioned, has a bad spot, or like a flat spot in it. And every once in a while it gets in that perfect position where when you go to start it, it just doesn't turn. Or the Bendix portion of it, where when the starter motor spins, it kind of spirals out. There's a gear that engages with the flywheel to turn the engine over. I think sometimes that Bendix gets out and gets jammed and then does what it's doing now, where I try to bump the starter and it doesn't do anything. So in the past, I've been able to, as you saw, put that pipe wrench on there and turn the coupling, and it would basically roll the engine over and disengage that starter Bendix and allow me to try to start it again, and it would usually work. The problem is, or the multiple problems now are, one, I broke part of the pump. So this is called it's by a company called Lovejoy, and basically it's got a pump coupling shaft on the shaft going to the crank of the engine, and then the other part of the shaft is on the pump. And there's a little rubber piece in between that is the medium that connects the two together. Well, in the past, by using that pipe wrench on there, like I said, I've been able to get it to turn, and this time I broke it. So there's a little set screw here that threads into the coupling and attaches it to the shaft going to the crank. So when I broke it, it broke at that same spot where, I don't know if you can see that, where this threaded key bolts into, right? So it's kind of a weak area. You can tell by, let's see if this is showing up on the camera. You can tell by this, see how it's all dark and discolored on both sides? It's probably been cracked, right? This isn't fresh, clean metal. This isn't something that just finally broke today. In fact, the only shiny part that I see is this little corner down here. But anyway, this had probably been cracked or damaged, and I just didn't even realize it. So anyway, I'm gonna have to get a new coupling. We'll see. Hopefully my engine's not frozen or stuck. I ran fine the other day, had no issues, no overheating. I don't think that's the issue, but it can happen. So obviously we were going to take the pump off anyway to bring it in to get rebuilt. So instead of doing the undercarriage on the crawlers in this video, we're going to do the remove the pump, remove the lift cylinders or the tilt cylinders for the bucket, and now I'm also going to remove the starter. So I believe I might have an extra starter for this. I can't remember. When I brought the one in for the crawler, I think I brought 2 in. Maybe it was just the one. Anyway, if I didn't, then I'm going to go ahead and pull this starter off. Bring this one in. There's a place here in Virginia Beach that does starters. It's Brownings. Anyway, they're pretty good. When I brought the one in for the crawler, he had it done the same day. Took it apart, rebuilt what needed to be rebuilt, put it back together. So anyway, I guess the video is turned from crawler to 420. So anyway, let's get started on that. I think the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to mess with the starter some more to see if we can at least get the engine turned over. I want to make sure the engine's good. I think the Bendix is probably just stuck in there jamming everything up. And we'll go from there. There's no sense getting a hydraulic pump and tilt cylinders rebuilt if my engine's stuck. So I don't think it is, but better safe than sorry. Let's check it out. Alright, super good news. I did have an extra starter, and I had it rebuilt when I had the starter for the 430 crawler done. So the good thing is I have that, so hopefully we can pull this old one out, make sure the engine does turn over by hand, and then install this new starter, and we should be good to go on that part. However, I did break that Lovejoy coupling, and being a weekend, probably not something I'm going to be able to get today. So I'll be able to start the tractor, but I'm not going to have the hydraulic pump turning to provide pressure to lift the loader. So again, not really a big deal. At least I know it'll have a good starter in. That starter, when I take it out, I'll bring to him and have him rebuild that one, so I have a spare. These starters are not cheap. If you don't have a core to rebuild and you just need to go buy one, like $300 or $400 probably. It's crazy. The tractor prices now are just nuts for parts. So anyway, we'll pull the battery, we'll pull the tray, we'll pull the starter out, make sure the engine can turn over, install the new starter, put it back together, make sure the tractor at least starts, which I'm sure it will, and then we'll go ahead and pull the hydraulic pump and the 2 lift cylinders. So the like I said, the crawler undercarriage just got diverted to this. So what do you expect? I mean, they're old tractors. Stuff like this happens. It's just part of the hobby, you know. And it's having the know-how and the tools to fix it and know what's wrong. You know, I wouldn't recommend antique tractors to someone that doesn't have mechanical ability or tools to fix them, because you're just going to end up spending a lot of money paying someone else to fix things. So anyway, it's funny, I saw a quote this morning. I was searching through Facebook, and it was talking about like older equipment and stuff, and the guy had wrote on there that there's nothing more expensive than a bargain tractor, right? And it makes sense. You know, you get something cheap, you're going to end up throwing money at it, and it's sometimes easier to just spend that money up front and get the better machine or the better tractor, because you're going to eventually spend that money anyway fixing up the old one. So, but that's what I do, right? Rusty wrench restorations, right? Rust, wrenches, restorations, we do all that stuff here. And that's what I enjoy doing. I love taking stuff apart. I love fixing stuff like this. This can get frustrating, right? I mean, it sucks that I didn't plan on doing this today. I really wanted to get ahead on this crawler, but what are you going to do, right? So anyway, we'll have some fun. We'll turn some wrenches. We'll get this thing going again, and then who knows, I probably still got time to mess with this undercarriage. So anyway, I guess I'll just combine this all into one video. But anyway, let's get moving on this and see what we can do. Alright, first and foremost, obviously we need to remove the battery. There's supposed to be another cover on this side, like there is over there. I don't have it for this tractor. I'm okay with that. But you would take this cover off. Basically there's 2 pins on this side, and then there's a key that goes in and turns, just like on my 430 crawler. So anyway, the battery's disconnected. I'll have to put the clutch pedal down in order to get my fingers in here. This one's kind of tight. I gotta pull this door down. There we go. Clutch pedal down, push this door down, and then you can slowly let the clutch pedal up, watch your fingers in there, and the battery will slide right out of there. Alright, now that the battery's out, I need to remove the, we don't have to remove the battery tray. It's got 4 bolts down here, but that tray is its own thing. What I do need to remove is this toolbox and that door on the other side, which are all one thing. Sometimes they're pinned, sometimes they're bolted. This one, from what I can see, it looks like it's just got 1 7/16 bolt over there. So that'll be easy enough to get off. And then on the dash over here, there's the pull button for the starter. There's a rod that goes through and connects to the starter. That's got to come apart anyway when we change the starter, but that rod goes through the inside here and it'll be in my way, so we'll disconnect that also. That's just a cotter pin on this side and pull the rod through. Like I said, this one's just got 1 7/16 bolt on this side, holding it on. So we'll go ahead and pull that out. Alright, we'll set that here. And there's usually a bolt in the bottom of this toolbox going into the transmission housing, but that's missing too. So that removes that. So that's out. Like I said, this battery tray, there's 4 bolts that hold it down. You don't need to remove that. So let's see if we can see through here. This is the rod that I was talking about that you normally pull to engage the starter. So there's a cotter pin on the other side. We'll pull that off. And this rod doesn't have to come out, we'll just slide it back. Alright, let's see, just a little cotter pin here. Well, this is a long one, I don't know, you need the pliers. So we'll pull the cotter pin out. Oh, maybe I do. Alright, cotter pin's out. This little rod comes out of the lever on the starter switch, and there we go. And just slide this back, you don't have to take it out all the way. Alright, next order of business is the wiring. So there's a lead that goes from, this is a positive ground system. So there's a lead going from the negative terminal of the battery to the starter. There's a nut on here. So we'll go ahead and remove that. Thought I had it. These underground electrical conduit makes you laugh when you see that. Alright, so get the nut off. Now there's 2 other wires. There's a lock washer in here. This is my, I guess their power to the wiring, which is funny. Power to the electrical wiring here. This red wire here, this is going to the coil, and then the negative cable for the battery. The starter's still warm, so I'll go ahead and put the lock washer and the nut back on there just so I don't lose them. And pull this wiring out of the way. Now on these starters, which is different from the 430 starter, let's see if we can get in here and see. I'll zoom in a bit. Come on, camera, there we go. You'll see that there's a nut and it's got an Allen key in the middle. So what this does is there's a pin in here, and I'll show you when we take it apart, that slides in to keep this starter from sliding out. So we'll loosen this nut and then we'll use the Allen wrench to take that pin out, and then the starter will just pull out. So the other type of starter is like what we have on the 430 over here. Sorry for the camera bouncing around. This one has a flange, so you can see there's a nut with a lock washer here, and there's another one on the other side at the bottom. They're kind of kitty corner. So if you're looking for a starter or a used starter, make sure you get the right one, because though the starter motor on this is very similar and it's basically the same engine, the mounting application is completely different. So make sure you get the correct one. Alright, I got this kind of zoomed in there for you. first thing I'm going to do is loosen this nut here. I could use my all 16ths. It's kind of a mechanical joke, all 16ths being a crescent wrench. You can change the size whatever you need. So 5/16, 7/16, 9/16, it'll fit them all. So anyway, let's see what we got here. Get this fit on here. Come from the top, probably be a little bit easier. There we go. And without hurting my hand here, let's see if I can get this loosened up a bit. There we go. That's just a jam nut for that that pin that goes in there. So you don't have to take it off, just loosen it. And then get a 5/16 Allen wrench. And that'll thread or stick into that pin. Let's see if I can get it in there. There we go. And then again, loosen that. There we go. Now, if you've never used an Allen wrench before, I'm sure if you've been to IKEA, you've at least put some furniture together with one. But the short end is good for getting in and using this long end as leverage to move it. And then you can flip it the other way to for clearance and to really unscrew things fast. So, all right. So now that that pin is out, let me show you what it looks like here. There we go. So there's the pin that just pokes into the starter to keep it from moving out. But now that that's out, I should be able to, let me reposition myself here, just grab the starter and slide it out. Alright, so see how it's jammed in there right now? I think what it is that Bendix is extended and it's jammed in the flywheel in here inside the bell housing. So I'm going to get a little pry bar and carefully pry around this thing and see if we can't get that off. So I guess you could look at that as, that's a terrible thing, Bendix is stuck in there, but in reality, I'm glad that's all it is. It's just the starter, which we have a spare. So I don't know if I'm going to be able to do this without getting the camera in the way here. This might not even work. Might have to get something a little bit different. You just want to be careful you don't break this casting anywhere. I'm not too concerned about the starter, but there we go. Alright, so now that that's slid out, let me pull this back. I'm going to pull it back just a little bit here for a second. And you can see this hole. So that hole is where the pin goes in through the casting here to keep it from moving out. So anyway, I'll go ahead and finish pulling this back. It's got another like flange on there that's kind of a tight fit, so excuse my hand for a second. There we go. That's the that second flange I was telling you about. And the starter's back, the Bendix is back in, so that's good. I don't know, it seems to be alright. Let me see if we can't turn the engine over. That's going to be the next question. Alright, pipe wrench is probably not the best thing to use for this, but I don't really have anything else, and it's kind of in a weird spot. But I just want to hook onto this shaft going to the engine crank to see if we can get it to roll over. There we go. That's good. It turns. So there we go. Alright, so we know it's definitely not the engine, it was just the starter and the Bendix, so good news there. So I was thinking about this coupling that I broke, and I'm not going to be one of those do as I say as I do, or whatever kind of guys, but I think for just temporarily until I can get this new coupling, once we get the starter changed, I'm going to put those two coupling halves with the key back on here, and then this is the epitome of a farmer fix. I'm going to get a hose clamp and basically go around the circumference of this coupling to keep it compressed in. So between the rubber fingers of this Lovejoy coupling and the compression all the way around of the hose clamp, I think that coupling will stay intact enough where I can at least lift this loader so I can move it. It's not my hand's in the way that whole time I was telling you, but anyway, so hopefully that'll work. It's just a temporary fix. Again, sometimes you have to think outside the box of how you can make something work. It's not detrimental to me that I get this loader lifted and tractor moved today, but I don't know, whatever. I've never tried that before. Seems like it'll work. Maybe it won't. You know, like I said, sometimes you have to think outside the box. What's another way I can make this work, right? So these tractors, I could be at a plow day and stuck out in the middle of a field somewhere and have this happen. And, you know, we could always drag it back and have the bucket down or whatever, but there's more than one way to kill a cat. So we'll try that. We'll see if it works. I think it will. But it'd be a temporary fix, you know, to get the pump working. The unfortunate thing with these tractors and some of the people that work on them is sometimes the temporary fixes turn into permanent fixes and then they just stay that way. So I highly recommend that if you do make a temporary Band-Aid type fix, that you always go back and fix it the right way. So anyway, enough about that. We've got the old starter pulled out. Let's go ahead and swap it with the new one and see if we can get this thing working. New starter coming in. Roll this way. Alright. Got the wires hooked up, cotter pin through the rod. Got the panel with the little toolbox put back on. So now it's just a matter of putting the battery back in. Come on. Alright, battery's in. I'm going to flip this door back up. Watch your fingers. Alright. Hook up the juice. Again, these are positive ground batteries. Your car's negative, so there's something to be different, or to be aware of, not to be different. They're not all like that. Sometimes they were converted over. Alright, let's try this out. Fuel is on, battery's connected. Let me move my, my rag and my flashlight and see if this starts. Hopefully we don't have any issues. Alright, let's see here. Choke, key, ignition, neutral.
I haven't hooked the hydraulic pump up yet, so nothing's going to work with that. I wanted to make sure it was going to start first.
My rod sits in a little bit different spot now, but that's alright. Try it again. Oh, hope if I turn the ignition on. The rod sits a little different. I guess it's gonna have to get used to it. Alright. Well, it starts. That problem's resolved. Got the nice nice new shiny starter in there. Alright, let's see if we can't do a boo-boo Band-Aid farmer fix on this pump, just to see if we can get it to work. Alright, so this is going to be my farmer fix for this coupling. We'll put this together. Obviously the keyway is going to be in there, and I'll get the set screw in best I can. I don't think that's really going to matter at this point, but basically we're going to use this hose clamp to hold it all together. So in the meantime, shoot, this one might be too big. I want to cut that lip, the flap off. I don't want it to be flipping around and hitting stuff, but this one's too big. I'm already pretty much to the end of the things on here, so I gotta go get a smaller one and see if we can make this work. Well, it's on there. Got the hose clamp in there. Let's see if I can get in there so you can see it. It's kind of holding the coupling in place. It's got a little bit of a gap on the other side. I was able to get the key in, but not the set screw. So again, it's just, I don't know, it's just my way of showing you maybe there's another way you can fix something in the meantime as an emergency type fix. So let's see if it works. I'm gonna set the camera up, I'm gonna start the tractor. Really, I just want to be able to have the hydraulic pump lift the loader for me so that I can move it. I can leave the loader up. Wow, sorry, that was like super close up. Anyway, I can leave the loader arms up. I can pull it out. I can work on these crawler undercarriage pieces, and then when I'm done, I can pull it back in. I don't know, I wouldn't stand next to it, but it works for now. Got the loader up. Seems to work. Got this tilted up so that get back out of it here. Get these pins out. Drop the bucket. Get these lift arms off. Plenty of room. The only thing I have to take off is this guard to get the pump apart. But, whatever. A win is a win. Well, it did all right. Got me to this point where I was able to lift the loader up and tilt the bucket down so I can pull these pins out and get the tilt and lift cylinders off. I've already got the pin pulled out from this lift cylinder here, and I'm going to pull this one out here. I'm not going to take the whole bucket off. I'm going to leave it hinged on these two here. So once I pull this one out, you'll probably see the bucket swing a little bit. It's not on the ground right now. So that's it. Just be careful working around this stuff. Obviously use common sense. I've got a pipe here that's going through the roll guard that I may end up, if I take the bucket off, lowering down, but just be wary of your surroundings and use a little bit of common sense. So like I said, when I pull this pin, the bucket's going to swing a little bit. No big deal. There we go. Alright, so the bucket's secured in place. It's held in by the pins and the loader arms. There's no reason for me to take those off. I did want to just get these cylinder pins out. So now that it's free where it needs to be, I can let the pressure off the loader arms, and basically everything is going to sit down on the bucket on the ground. I'm going to leave this pipe in here just in case, because I do have to get in here to get the guard and the pump off. That's about it. So let's lower it down and get the pressure off the system. So when I take this pump apart and I disconnect the supply and return lines to it, I'm going to have the pressure off the system anyway. So you always want to think ahead and get your components into a safe state that's going to allow you to, one, work on the equipment, and two, be in a position so that when you do have to relieve all that pressure, it's not going to prevent you from being able to work on the equipment. So like I said, the bucket's detached from the lift cylinders, or the tilt and roll cylinders. It's still attached to the loader frame, so no issues there. The weight's on the ground. The weight of the loader arms is sitting on the bucket itself, and this pole's in here, this pipe, just as an added security, just in case. So that's really about it for that part. So we'll disconnect the hydraulic lines, go into the tilt cylinders. Again, just go over to your valve assembly, move the levers to get any pressure off so that when you take this apart, you don't get splashed with oil. You're going to have oil come out of these cylinders no matter what. It doesn't matter if they're extended down like this or if they're compressed in. The other end of the piston rod here, like for an example, is at this end right now. So everything behind here is full of oil. If I had this piston retracted inside, then the front part would be filled with oil. So just know that whatever position this is in, either extended or contracted, when you take these hoses off, oil is going to come out. So the best thing I would say is just, disconnect the cylinders. In this case here, when I press this part back inside, oil is going to come out of this bottom one. So I'll put that in a bucket and capture everything that I can. So let's go ahead and get these cylinders off. This side here is just a pin on that side, so a cotter pin and a pin that slides out. Really isn't much to it. I mean, the hardest thing getting these off is going to be disconnecting these fittings. And I have gone through every single hose on this whole machine is brand new, so shouldn't have any issues there. So I'll go ahead and get these cylinders off. When it comes time to put this back together, just know that you're going to need some additional fluid. Excuse me. And you're going to need to purge the air out of the system for these. So. And to purge the air out of the system, basically you just want to make sure that the fluid reservoir is filled. And then like I would pull this out away from this lean-to and just cycle the loader through its range of motion, if you will. So up and down and tilt and roll. Alright, so we've got the hose off on this end here. Tuck this out of the way. This is another one where the whole hose spins. Guess it would help if I go the right direction, right? Alright, so when I take this pin out, the whole thing is going to be free. And I'm going to want to get this back end down into this bucket here. I know you probably can't see it, but you get the rest of the oil out. But just know that it's going to come free. So we'll lift that cylinder off, put that pin in, bring it over here, put that end in the bucket, and slowly, because it will spray out, retract this cylinder, get that oil out. Woo. Quite a bit of oil. I'll move the camera so you can see it on the next one. And if you want, you can lift it up, push down again, and hear it blowing all that out. So now, all the oil's out of that cylinder. Set this off to the side. I'm going to move my bucket over here so I can show you on this next one. Again, I'm just going to set this in the bucket here. Now this has a T-fitting. It could come out this orifice or this one. So again, it doesn't, just go slow because it will spray it. There we go. Making a big mess, so it's coming out that side one. You get all that oil out of there. Like I said, it doesn't matter what position it's in. If you had the cylinders retracted like this and you took it off, you'd have to pull this piston out and oil would come out of this top one. So go ahead and pull it back out. You can tell that gland's pretty tight. We'll push again to see if there's any other oil in there. Alright, that's it. Alright, so I got everything cleaned up from that mess. The hydraulic pump is off. The tilt roll cylinders are off, and I'll bring those in this week to hopefully get overhauled to get rid of all these leaks and everything. So I'm just going to pull one of these roller assemblies out real quick, just to kind of go over what it looks like getting these fasteners cut off and pulling the rollers out. They're both the same thing, so there's no sense in me showing you both. But basically it's just cutting the hardware off the 4 rollers, separating the rollers from the frame assembly. The springs for the idler tensioner slide right out. There's nothing to even unbolt from that. They just sit inside like a little pocket. And that's about it. Really, it's just a matter of the going through with the wire wheel and cleaning up all the rollers, cleaning up all the inside of the undercarriage frame assembly, and then you know, tapping any of the holes out for the hardware, especially the bigger bolts that are on the top that attach the undercarriage to the bars that go across the crawler to hold it onto the crawler. So anyway, let me pull that over here. We'll cut some bolts. You can see what the rollers look like. We'll kind of do a quick little visual to see if they're in good shape or not. And then that's pretty much going to be it for the video for today. I'll cut the rollers off the other one, and it's just going to be me coming out here in the afternoons, wire wheeling, getting all the old paint off, priming and painting, and then reassembly. Really not much to it, but I'll do a video once everything's painted and they're put back together, installing them back onto the crawler frame. At that point we can put the sprocket on, get the idler wheel back on, and really everything's done with the undercarriage with the exception of the chain and the pads for the tracks. So it's getting there. It's a process for sure. So anyway, let me bring that roller assembly over and we'll cut some rollers out. This is the tensioner for the idler, and it just kind of goes through and sits in this pocket back here. This is something that was added by somebody. Anyway, they just slide out, so that's pretty easy. Again, these 8 bolts for each side, I replace these every time. So just make sure that you pull them out and you tap all these holes before you put your new hardware in. I'm not worried about any of that right now. I just want to get this flipped over and look at the rollers. One more. There we go. Watch your toes. Alright, let me get a better view on here so you can see this thing. Alright, here's the roller assembly upside down. So let's check these out. This one here, it's got a few little pieces broken on the flange in here. For what I do with it, it's not going to affect anything. Let me move this so you can see a little bit better. So yeah, right here on this flange, so the rail for the chain rolls through here, right? So there's some pieces that are worn and chipped off. It's really not too thin. If you look at the sidewall of it, it's actually okay. Who knows? Maybe something got jammed in there, but the rest of them look decent. Again, I'm not working the scroller. It's, I don't even want to say it's a show tractor. I mean, I'm going to clean it up and bring it to some shows and stuff, but it's not a museum piece by any means. So, someone's been in here before. There's a mix of Allen head bolts and some hex head. So, we'll get all those cut out of there, and we're going to use hex head on it. One of the things you can check is just grabbing the rollers and shaking them around. This one's got some play in it, but these 3 are really pretty tight. It looks like these were all welded and this one wasn't. So this one's split into 2 pieces. These are all welded together. I honestly don't remember how they came. I don't remember them being split. And this one looks like it's got some heavy wear. Let me move this camera again so you can see this. And we shall zoom in a bit. Let's go here. Alright, hopefully you'll be able to see this. So yeah, the center of this is welded, as are the other 2 front rollers. This one here, it's not, they're separate. But there's a huge divot in here where it looks like it's been wearing or rubbing. And that's just got a lot of play. So that's not good. This one's going to have to get replaced. Hopefully I can just get one. We'll see. These other 3 look okay. And of course, I still have the other side to look at as well. So we'll kind of make that determination then. You just don't want these things doing all kinds of wonky things and, you know, jumping a track and losing a track at a show or in the middle of a field or something. So this one's going to get replaced. These other 3 are fine. Hopefully the other 4 on the other side are good. So I'm going to end up flipping this over. But like I said, basically this hardware goes through and there's nuts in the back and they're really rusted out. So I'm just going to cut all those and hopefully I can punch them through with a punch and get these rollers separated from this frame. some of these I still have to use the hex to kind of break free, and then once it's free you can hammer it out. I've never done a crawler that had these hex heads in here before, and I don't think it's original. I think they were all, when I say hex head I mean like an Allen head. So I think, well, somebody added that in here at some point. I believe they were all hex head, like, you know, 6-point. That's loose. I might be able to hit it out. Anyway, you gotta get creative. There we go. So, let me check my camera angle here. I think we're good on the back two. So, we should be able to get those out. Just a little tappy tap. Oh, jeez. Alright, so someone welded these blocks in here. This is going to be a train wreck. And when they welded those in, they got part of my roller wheel here. Alright, this is going to be an extensive project. So, I think they got this back one too. It's coming out. Alright, well, I guess I'll show you on this back one. I'm going to basically have to go through and cut all these blocks off. I don't know why they did that. It might be original for the 430. I've never seen that on any of the other crawlers, so I could be wrong. But either way, someone did weld here and snagged on the frame of the rollers. So anyway, these roller assemblies come apart pretty easy. Just kind of checking my camera to make sure you're going to be able to see what I'm going to show you. So let's lift this up here. So this one, like I said, has got a lot of play in it. But basically, on one side, you're going to have a nut like this on the inside, and then on the outside, you'll have some type of grease fitting. This looks like a button fitting, but anyway, when I redo these, I take everything apart. So this side piece will come off, this side piece will come off, then you'll have your roller assembly. This one is going to be in 2 pieces because it's either worn through the weld or I've never seen one like that before. But anyway, the biggest thing you want to do is get everything apart. Wire wheel, sandblast, whatever, get it down to bare metal, and you really want to clean all the grease out of here. So the biggest thing that people I think don't understand about these rollers is, like I said, on the outside of the roller, let's just say it's this one here, because it looks like a button head. It's kind of small, but anyway, this is your grease zerk fitting, right? And then here's a set screw. Anyway, so when you pump grease into this end, one, it goes in and lubricates the bearing area here on this side, but it also goes through the axle shaft. It's hollow in the middle, and it goes through to the other side, and there's 1 or 2 holes, I can't remember. I think it's 2 because I'm pretty sure you can push a rod through. But anyway, it comes out on this end too. So when you insert put your grease gun on this side and pump grease through, it sends grease to this bearing and then down through that axle shaft to get the inside bearing also. These things being so old and constantly in dirt and rock and everything, every one that I've taken apart is like just a mess, right? So inside that hollow axle, that grease that's in there that's 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 years old is like tar, and you'll never be able to pump grease in to properly lubricate the inner part of this bearing, and that's why these things end up getting all janky. So take everything apart, clean it out, run some, get some metal dowels, push them through the axle, push all that old grease out, brake cleaner, whatever solvent you want to use, dissolve all that old grease. Get everything cleaned out so that when you inject your grease on this side, it's going to make it all the way through and get the inside as well. That's like the most important thing I can tell you about these rollers. And then when you put it back together, I definitely recommend lubricating everything by hand, and then putting the grease in as well. So they get really neglected, and then this is the kind of stuff that happens. So anyway, that's about the gist of how this undercarriage comes apart. So there's 4 bolts on each side that hold these roller assemblies. See, these should spin separate of each other too, and they're not. So it just, it's old, it's been neglected, and that's one of the things about crawlers. There's so many unknowns. There's so many things in the undercarriage that you can't see until you take it apart. It's literally like peeling an onion apart and finding new problems. If you find yourself in the market for a crawler and you're looking at one, just know these are things that you need to look for. And these are things that you're not going to see when you go there and look at it, right? You're not going to realize you have these problems, or just how much time and effort and money goes into making these work properly, right? So I know I call it restorations, and a lot of people will argue that term. I'm not fully tearing this thing apart nut by nut and putting it back together with new OEM, new old stock parts, right? That would be your restoration. You restore it to like new condition. I don't do that with these. It's more of a refurbishment, if you will, or sometimes a mechanical restoration. I don't know, whatever you want to call it, it doesn't matter. But I like to at least take these apart to get to the point where I know mechanically they're in good working condition, right? So some of these blocks that are on here, this bracket that was put on, that's not original that I know of. I haven't had a 430 before. I don't remember seeing these. In fact, I know I haven't seen these on the Lindemann, the 40, the 420, the MC. It's different. So someone has made some alterations to this, and I'm okay with that. I'm not going to go out and spend the money to find undercarriages that haven't been welded on or whatever. I mean, you could really get yourself down a rabbit hole spending money on this stuff. And for what I did with them, it's just not worth it. I'm going to take this to a couple shows. I'm going to take it to some plow days. We're going to put the blade back on the front. We're going to go move some dirt. My buddy Brian's got some of those big 40-foot Connex boxes that we're going to push around. So we're going to use it and have some fun, but it's not like I own a construction company and I need this every day. It's not going in the Smithsonian where it needs to be a perfect example of what this looked like new, right? I'm just trying to show you how this stuff comes apart, what you can do to fix it, and maybe some of the things you can try to look for when you're trying to purchase one. Like I said, a lot of this stuff's hard to see until you start taking it apart. But that's part of how you're going to have to negotiate your price when you're buying a crawler from someone, is the fact that you always have to leave that wiggle room in your budget of the unknown, right? So anyway, part of the process, I guess. So I'm going to continue with this. I'm going to finish getting these rollers off, and I'm going to, or try to anyway, I think I might have to do some more cutting and grinding. It's going to make this video go so long. But anyway, I'll get these apart, get them cleaned up. Maybe I'll do another video. If I find any other issues or problems, I can add that in a different one, but I think this one's gone long enough. So we started with the intentions of getting these pulled apart, so I didn't want to end not doing that. We ran into some issues with the 420 with the starter, and we ended up pulling the hydraulic cylinders off. So kind of like a wonky mismatch video, right? But that's how it goes with these old tractors. You can make a plan of how you're going to do things or what's going to happen, and sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. So anyway, got to at least see how this comes apart. It's really not that bad. It's not that complicated. It is a lot of hard work, a lot of cutting and grinding. We'll get it cleaned up. We'll get new hardware. It's going to go together nice and easy. It's going to be painted nice bright yellow. It's going to look amazing, right? So anyway, that's about it for this video. Hope you all have a great weekend, and hit that subscribe button. I appreciate it. Peace.